Hello and welcome to the Build Better Homes podcast. I am your host, Boyle Mortier, and with me, my trusty sidekick in everything is my Mr. John O'Shea. How are you doing today, sir?
Good morning. Doing really well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. This is our first week back. We were actually out of the office, is the easiest way to put it, for a couple of weeks, but we got an opportunity to do some really cool things during those weeks with the business and with some other things. One of the biggest things I'm going to hit on is what we did last week, which was attend the International Builder Show. Funny abbreviated as the IBS show, has nothing to do with IBS, but the International Builder Show.
Why couldn't they pick a better name?
I know, right? It's
or
fitting.
An acronym needs to be better.
A better acronym. Well, and then there's KBIS, which is the Kitchen and Bath International Show. Like it could be the Builders International Show, right? BIS. But hey, you know what? They've been doing it for a long time.
Man, the biz.
The biz. We're going to the biz. They've been doing it for long enough. Maybe they don't need a rebranding. And you know, with the attendance that they've got, it's going to be what it's going to be. So, to fill anybody in on who hasn't attended this, so this year it was in Orlando, Florida. John flew in from Oregon. I had a nice little hopper flight over there from where I'm at in Pensacola. Wonderful Spirit Airlines, the highest quality in the sky.
Right. Royal going for the value brand there. It was short flight for you. Hey, shout out to United. They did a great job. I haven't flew on that airline in a really long time, and they did a fantastic job. Everyone was very, very nice. I had some crying babies and some spirited interactions by people adjacent to me, but other than that, it was a really good experience. Pilots did great, and yeah, I used to fly United a lot when I was a kid back east because my family's from Boston, and then some have migrated into New York. But yeah, United did great. Flight was great. Man, when I landed, I was in a parka. And when I got there, it was 75 degrees and sunny. And then when I left in shorts and a t-shirt. When I hit Chicago, it was 35 degrees, but felt like 15. And everyone was looking at me like I was crazy.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah, we had and you left, and then we had a really short cold snap. We got back into freezing again, and now we're back up into the 60s and 70s. So hopefully that's behind us. But I actually had a construction defect inspection down the Emerald Coast yesterday, and the owner of the building is in New York, and they were supposed to fly down, and that didn't happen. Though
the whole East Coast is shut down right now.
Oh, it's pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So perfect timing that the Builder Show was last week, because the storms that have hit the East Coast and North this week would have definitely hindered a lot of attendees. So just, Builder Show by the numbers, 87,000 attendees this year.
Wow.
That's right. That's pretty awesome.
For Orlando, that's huge. I mean, I don't know, as much about the East Coast as I do the West Coast, but we know the size differential between Vegas and Orlando and how it's laid out, especially in the different buildings versus one big building.
Yeah.
I heard there's something like, I was listening to another podcast, an ICF podcast, funny thing, but they said there was 850 vendors at the breakfast, just vendors.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. So let's see. Okay. So they had 117,000 registrants. Of the 117,000, about 80,000 showed. They had 1,650 exhibitors.
Wow.
That was just, let's see.
So half of them showed up for the breakfast.
Right.
It's only half.
And all DCW featured, exhibit space for IBS totaled. So they're separating out the Builder Show and KBIS. So just the IBS side was 679,000 square feet of show space with 1,650 exhibitors. Total was 1.15 million square feet of exhibition space and 2,250 exhibitors. That's pretty amazing. And then next year it's going to be back in Vegas.
So that's permanent now in Vegas, is what I read this morning. And they always say that, but what I read was it's permanently now there. But you never know.
Yeah, and I mean, there's pluses and minuses to both. I'm honestly going to say, I went to the Orlando show during COVID, and it was extremely low attendance, low exhibitors, low attendance, but it was still meaningful to go. I'm glad that they did it. There was a positive in that. We got to go, we got to watch the show. A lot of people from the West Coast that unfortunately were still under significant lockdowns and stuff did actually come and attend the show. And one of the things I will say with us this year, the West Coast attendance was pretty low. There was not a lot of attendees that I saw coming in from West Coast.
Yeah. And just anecdotally from the different things that I've been doing on the West Coast here in Portland, the different builders that I visited in the prior weeks to the show, everyone that I had talked to that generally attends was not going on this side of the country.
Right.
So anecdotally, that's what I've kind of found too.
Yeah, so it was good. I will say in Orlando, there's less education space, and one of my favorite things to go to these events is actually going to the classes to learn from experts in the industry or things that are up and coming. And so they had far fewer education opportunities, but there still were quite a few, and they still did a pre-show education lineup as well. My first builder show I went to, I showed up the multiple days early and attended the all-day classes that they were having. Highly beneficial, but now where we're at business-wise, being able to set aside the time to be in an all-day class and then also be attending the show, definitely don't have that full week of time to set aside. But if you're newer to the industry, getting in early, finding those classes, attending those classes, networking with other people that are kind of on par with you, or meeting with these experts that are actually out training people on how to build better, develop plans, everything about the industry, it's highly beneficial. And so,
I think that it's the networking piece. A lot of times people, especially first timers, may be hesitant to go roll up into the booth. I mean, one of the examples is when we rolled into one of those big vendors and there's 15 guys sitting there in green shirts and they're all kind of looking at you like, are you going to say something? Are you not going to say something? And it can be a little intimidating to go into those booths and, the bright lights are on and everybody's just kind of, there. But those guys are there, and guys and gals are there to network and to connect with you and talk about their products. And so, especially the people that are there for the first time, do not hesitate to go in and just start a chat with someone about something you're interested in, something that impacts your business, something that you want to learn about. That's what they're there for. Can be intimidating, but that's what it's for.
And for everybody, if you're in the process of designing a home, they offer a non-member attendance. So it's a discounted rate, or, your first time show. So getting out there and being able to meet with these vendors is extremely important. And last year when I attended in Vegas, it was a dual purpose because we were in the middle of designing a home and I was there to meet with clients that we serve and vendors for Clearis. And so I got to leverage both aspects of it. But there was a lot of interior finish items, windows, doors, accessory items that I didn't even know existed. And getting to walk that show got me so much exposure to it. And, they really do a great job of what I'll say separating the lipstick from the sticks and bricks. So the structural items and the elements to actually build a home and those side of it versus everything was for your interior finishes and making it pretty. And this year, because of how everything was broken up, we definitely did focus more on what I would call the sticks and bricks side of it, because it was almost a pure separation. One convention hall had everything associated with the sticks and bricks, and one convention hall was easily 75 to 90% lipstick.
Yeah, their segmentation was good.
Yeah.
In the three halls for sure, because that one central hall was just building materials. So
right.
That was huge. A lot of walking.
Yeah, so we averaged over 25,000 steps a day. The first day we had dress shoes. The next couple of days, definitely no dress shoes. So
Royal even warned me that morning. He's like, "You're gonna wear those," and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, they're pretty comfortable. Like I think I've even done IBS in those shoes before,
right.
But not like we did it." we did a lot more walking, and we had a very specific agenda, and we really stuck to it, and we really worked that show, so to speak. So those 25,000 steps were well earned, and I was very sore that first night. But when we put on tennis shoes after that, they don't look as nice with your with your outfit, I guess, but it helped a huge amount.
I will say when you're walking around and you're looking at everybody else and everybody else is in tennis shoes and you're the one in dress shoes, there's a reason.
There's a reason.
There's a reason for it. So, I do want to highlight some of the cool things that we saw. And some of the biggest, we got to film a lot of content. So we expect to see a lot of that coming up on our social media channels. And in case you guys didn't know, we're actually now even on TikTok. So we've got a lot of content coming in there, and we're seeing increased subscriptions there. But some of the cool things I saw, and just some things that we're going to be seeing changing in the industry that I want to make people aware of. So we've talked about this before, which is bottom supported large format sliders. And there's one company specifically that I've worked with regularly and specified their doors that they do one thing and they do one thing really, really well. We're going to feature them on our social media, but I'll mention them here, and that's Panoramic Doors. They make a stacking door assembly that is rated for all wind regions, including Miami-Dade. And they make a great system. It's all bottom track supported. The door assemblies actually basically separate apart from each other and stack to the side, creating a very small stack. So you wind up with, if you've got about a 20-foot opening, by the time you stack those panels, you've got about an 18.5-foot opening. It's not a slider condition where you're putting it back to the sides and you still have a 4-foot panel or 5-foot panel on either side. There's a really cool assembly. You're going to see some content about that. But there's another company that made a big move this last year, and that's Fleetwood. And we've run a whole series on that. And they're a more typical slider assembly. But some things I really liked about their system was, again, bottom supported. It's their own system, fully bottom supported. They have a fully entrenched, basically all steel enameled, or I think it was aluminum enameled catch tray system with drains through it. So
weep holes.
You can control all your weeps, any water coming in. The track allows for embedment of hardwood floor or tile between it. So you wind up with just these super small track lines where the door itself goes. They have an interlocking corner assembly. So if you had let's say a cantilever corner construction and you wanted that full open window look, but actually be able to open those doors in a corner assembly, they have a system that comes together and interlocks in that corner. And then when you open it up, you can just slide those panels all the way back.
The entire corner of your building or your house opens up. It's incredible. 1,000-pound doors.
1,000-pound doors, and we're moving them with a finger. But the big move that they made is they actually they recently got bought up by Owens Corning, which Owens Corning is a Warren Buffett company. They're massive. They produce tons of materials, and everything I see come from Owens Corning as far as their subsidiary products that I've seen them acquire. Warren Buffett has a great mantra, which is acquire a great company for a fair price, right? Never acquire a fair company for a great price, acquire a great company for a fair price. So the fact that they acquired them shows that they are a great company, and I'm really excited to see what they come out with moving forward with their R&D and their more innovation, because the foundation and structure of their door assemblies that they're putting out right now is fantastic. And if they're only going to get better with their R&D research and stuff, I'm really excited to see where that goes.
Yeah. And when we did the corner door assembly shots for the social media and some of our stuff, we met the grandson of the founder of Fleetwood, which is kind of cool as well. He's the one that runs us through it all. And so 3rd generation company, really cool stuff. Fleetwood, check them out.
Yeah. They had the slider assemblies. They had some other door assemblies and other window assemblies. And one of the things I also really liked with them is Panoramic. They have basically an envelope, and that's just what their production stuff is. Like I said, they do one thing and they do it really well. Yeah. With the Fleetwood product, they'll actually use their track systems and use their frames and use their stuff, but they'll design the panels. They'll design and actually do all the engineering for the panel systems based on where it's going. So if you've got a massive house, say in Marco Island or Miami-Dade or something like that with high winds and hurricane requirements, and you're wanting these massive panels, they'll actually do all the custom engineering and design to make those assemblies. So it was really cool to see that product firsthand and see where they're going with it.
Gotcha. So Panoramic doesn't do the custom sizing. Fleetwood does.
Panoramic may do custom. I've never had to, and I didn't have that discussion with the rep while I was there, but their standard sizing that they have available is pretty significant. And what I like with Panoramic as well, and builders will understand this, they don't require a special certified installer to install their stuff and warranty it.
Yeah.
We had a situation of we were the engineer for a home build that was about 6,500 square foot home, 3 stories. And he had these doors and their framers had messed something up. Well, he had already paid not only for the doors, but paid for the certified installer and to drive over to the installation. Well, the home was about 5 or 6 hours away from the closest certified installer.
Right.
So he had paid something like $10,000 for these installers to come in to install these 2 massive doors. Well, the framers had messed something up, which required the doors to be taken out. And so you can imagine the framer's shock when the homeowner's going, well, you guys screwed this up, so you get to pay for the installers to come back over, take the doors out, fix your mistake, and then put the doors back in.
What a mess.
It was. Whereas the panoramic doors, now I will say, I personally have a friend that has the panoramic doors in their home and has for over a decade, and they still function like new. They're still fantastic. So I am a huge fan of their brand, and the fact that they're also bottom supported. They have higher deflection limits, so we can do large openings without having to massively oversize a header. And and then the fact that the doors actually break apart and stack as individual panels. So they make
one of the big things before we move on, I just wanted to hit on was the threshold. You talked about the recessed track in in the bottom supported doors. And so in Panoramic versus kind of Fleetwood, I know Fleetwood has the proprietary, aluminum weep hole system. Does Panoramic also allow for flush thresholds in the similar way that Fleetwood does? Fleetwood just has that patented channels in their aluminum. I remember him showing us the pieces and how they all kind of work, and how the weep holes kind of drain, and you can actually direct the water to certain locations and stuff like that. Does Panoramic also do flush thresholds? Or do
they have a very low threshold system.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a full flush assembly. I know it is very low, and I want to say I know it's a very low track system. Okay, nope, I got it right here. They have a flush and upstand track option. Okay. So they do have a flush. They do have a flush option.
Because I know a lot of people, if they're going to spend the money on those bottom supported doors, one of the coolest parts. In fact, one of our colleagues at one of the builders that we work for, he's building a house up in Kalama, and I was there at their event a week or two ago, and he was asking about the doors and how he thought he was going to have to drop the porch outside, even though it's a covered porch. He was concerned about water blowing in and getting in the house, and he was talking about, okay, well, what height do I need to set my exterior concrete porch at versus my finished floor in the house, and how do you seal that location at the bottom of those doors, and whether the water can get in, and how does that all work? So I'm actually looking at their specs and cross sections right now. So they do have an up track that provides that outside seal, or they have a flush track assembly where it still has a seal. It has a bottom seal system, but it's super low profile. Like, is it like quarter
it's
inch
flush.
Or something? Oh, it's flush, fully flush. Cool.
It would be flush. Yeah, it'll be fully flush. The other one has a 3/4 inch upstep. So
gotcha.
yeah. So, but yeah, and then you got a drain system or a drain track that you put in there. Again, both are fantastic. Both are products that I have personal experience with, have seen them in action, and really big fan of them. So,
Sweet.
now diverting from, now this is definitely more not a sticks and bricks, but every home has doors and windows in it. So it's really something important to talk about. Now, digression, the Kohler exhibit.
Oh gosh. Yeah. The maze, the $1 million exhibit.
Oh my gosh. That, it was small. I think it was smaller than Vegas last year, but still insane. Still absolutely insane. I mean,
Kohler's 100-year-old plus company, a really, really old company that's been doing it for a very long time. But the maze that they put up, the screens, the flashing lights. I mean, you'd think DJ Khaled's going to jump out of a bathtub in there and start spinning, records in front of you. And it's just like everywhere. Reps are everywhere. Screens, friggin', all these things. And then all these little pathways to go about looking at all their different products. How do they even keep it straight?
Dude, I'm sure it was, yeah, actually, no, I saw it. So they set up an entire VIP cafe in the middle.
Yeah.
That's like 1,000+ square feet of just this cafe that you only get access to if you have if you're a special invited to it. But it's an absolute maze, and the amount of products and features and everything they have exhibited around it is incredible. And products that you would never even think of, features, and it changes every year. I mean, it really does. They change the display. They're changing tile colors. They're changing product colors. It's fully, they plumb in. Everything's fully like plumbed in. So they have functioning water throughout the whole exhibit.
I honestly think there's a whole division of the company that's just dedicated to those shows every year.
It's got to be
how they build and design those. They start immediately after the show closes for the next year. They get in on those trends, and they revamp that whole thing. And along with the Kohler exhibit, one of the things that I noticed in the KBS part of the building was the competition around the appliances. It was absolutely incredible to see Monogram and Cafe and LG had a massive presence there with their new like high-end appliance line. And they were similar booths where it was like they're like serving food, and the DJ's playing and the lights are going and people are in different sections, and like it's just very elaborate, incredible.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty interesting because, I mean, as you're walking, you get there, right? You get there, and you can just be walking through, and every so many booths they're going to have a full cafe set up. So you go in, you get a coffee, and then this booth over here they've got snacks, and then at lunchtime different booths will have stuff fully catered, and so it's like you can just get in there and get ingrained in it and just stay walking through and looking through stuff. And I mean, we really kind of did. I mean, we got there typically around 10:30 in the morning, and we were leaving at 5 when everything was closing up, and it was just go the whole time.
Well, and you can just eat throughout. You can just walk through and eat because everybody's offering either snacks or coffee, and then come 3:00, happy hour starts, and then that's things really get turned up, and then they're all offering beer and booze.
Oh yeah. That was. I will say, with as much walking as we did, even though we were like snacking and doing this stuff throughout it, I actually came back weighing less than I did before the show. So. Which was nice because I got a few extra pounds on me from this winter. So
that's hard to do traveling. Well, after your competition, well-deserved rest. So I wouldn't shy away from a little bit of rest after all that training you did. But I came back the same. I was concerned because generally traveling, I will amass mass.
Right.
And this time that didn't happen. So
there you
that was
go.
good. You know,
There
when
you
I
go.
go to Italy, I'll eat pasta and drink their wine and I won't gain any weight,
Right.
which is a whole nother topic we could probably talk about. But if you do that in the US, it's very different.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So, yeah, it is. But yeah, no, we had a good time. So now, kind of on the sticks and bricks side of it, you know, we saw. I got to hit on, you know, Weyerhaeuser. Weyerhaeuser is a major wood manufacturer,
yeah.
Engineered lumber and engineered timber, and they brought actually some innovation. So some stuff I was really excited to see. They brought out, or they're going to be releasing into certain markets, what I consider a direct competition with engineered floor trusses. And the reason so they already have their TJI system, their silent floor system. But now what they're coming out with is, and we're going to have some content coming about it, but it's basically an LVL assembly that already has pre-cut holes through it, and they're more of like a hexagon, but that creates significant opening space already cut into your joist or beams to allow for your MEP pass-throughs. In addition, you can cut out an additional web that they have to create an opening that I think, if I'm not mistaken, depending on the joist height, but it works out to on an 11/7/8 or a 14-inch, I think on a 14-inch joist, it was something, it creates an opening of like 22 by 8 or 24 by 8, 24 by 10, which is a pretty standard return duct size. And the reason this is important is energy codes nationwide are one thing that we're seeing come across nationwide is the push for all of your mechanical inside the insulated envelope of the building, which what that means is we used to typically see just ductwork in the crawl space or maybe sandwiched between insulation and the crawl space, or in the attic space with a little bit of blown in insulation over the top of it. Now there are specific requirements of it being inside the insulated envelope. So if you do put it in the attic or in the crawl space, you're having to basically build down your crawl space to create the floor insulation equivalent around your ductwork. No longer is it just sleeving the ductwork with an R8 and R8 insulation and putting it in place. No longer is it just setting it in the attic with a little bit of blown over and maybe an R8 wrapping. They're looking for an R30, R38 over it in the crawl space. They're looking for the R45 or R60 in the attic space or there's even these insulated blockout systems that they make. Well, the easiest way to circumvent that is bring it into the floor system.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in a conventional 11/7/8 TJI assembly or a 2x12 dimensional lumber or a 14-inch system, you can't get ductwork through those systems. It's too big. They're too large of elements. And so that's why we've seen this massive increase in the use of manufactured trusses, even in a 14-inch depth. I'm in Florida. We're seeing 24 inches a pretty commonplace for our manufactured trusses. So for them to have something, the drawback to manufactured trusses is they are manufactured, right? They're being built off site to specific measurements of the plans. If your framer makes a deviation, you make a plan change, you do whatever, those are already out on site. They're already in production. You don't have that flexibility to make those changes without having to pay for those trusses to be modified. With this system, they're a cut to length, just like a TJI. So they can be pre-cut typically from the supplier, but if you need to make a change, you need to make a modification, you can do it right there in the field without having to go through and getting engineer's letter and doing a bunch of different stuff. So, and they're using them as not just floor joists, but also we can be using them as a stacked beam assembly as well. So in a case where something we run into all the time, where we have joists running, say, north-south, and we've got to run a beam across a hallway opening or a kitchen opening east to west, well, now that beam blocks our ability to get our MEP systems through there. So now with these being able to be work as a beam assembly and a joist assembly, it provides us with adequate pre-established openings through both of those. So it's no longer a question of, can I put a hole in the beam here? It's already there for you.
One of the biggest challenges coming from the builder side is with the floor truss system. Not only if you go with a 14 or a 16, and then you have to kind of deduct the cord depth on the top for what you actually have as a pass through. And then obviously the field modification thing was the most challenging. But what also came about was, you do these HVAC layouts, and then you can provide them to the truss manufacturer, and they build channels in those trusses for the routing of the HVAC units. Mm-hmm. And that's the intent of it all. But what actually happens, we all know out in the field, is that you're dealing with the physical world. And so the HVAC installer is not the same person that may have done the diagram or that may have access to even the diagram. They show up with all their equipment and they drop it and they're installing, and they have to run it where they feel is the best place to run it. And so with the floor truss systems, not being able to modify them, having pre-built channels already in them, having limited space unless you're going with those big 24s you're talking about as far as height goes, a lot of times those HVAC units, even if we're running collision exercises for beams to be raised and dropped, and we're providing those diagrams and the truss manufacturers building those channels into the floor systems, they'll run those things where they need to run them. Mm-hmm. And it becomes absolutely the most difficult thing in the world for either the rest of the subs or modifications and all of that. And so this particular product coming from, I cut my teeth in the trades like you did, being out there in the field and actually having to do something versus on paper, the fact that you can modify them and be able to make those pivots in the field is going to be huge if that is indeed the route that they go. But I know from talking to those HVAC contractors when I was on the builder side that they don't use those runs. And a lot of times, let's say the cadence of when the contractors come in, okay, so the electrical contractor comes in here, the HVAC contractor comes in here, the plumber comes in here. Usually the plumber comes in first, then the HVAC, if you're talking MEPs in a rough frame situation where the house is framed, the roof goes on, the plumber shoots his stack through the roof so the roofer can finish, but the plumber is there first, then the HVAC contractor's there, then the electrician's there. The plumber sometimes will run their pipes through those channels, and then they can't even run their HVAC equipment through the proper channels in those floor truss systems. So it becomes really challenging if that project manager or whoever's managing that build isn't on top of that. And so that's just my 2 cents with that coming from the builder side, that while I liked the chases and the idea of the floor trusses, I'm not sure over the long term if that would be the solution that I would always go to if I were doing it, even though the alternative is much more difficult with the TJIs and stuff like that. If I have to bury them inside the building envelope, and then just to hit on one more thing, it also creates a challenge when you're doing single story to pull in all of that venting and not have to have soffits around your house. So trying to avoid building all of those chases and soffits, just make sure you get those designed into your product or into your house if you're doing a single story. So.
Yeah, and we'll have to do a totally separate cast on this, but I I really am a big promoter of doing an encapsulated crawl space with this push for everything being in the insulated envelope. An encapsulated crawl space can massively save a ton of hassle. And you're basically using it makes a clean crawl space. So it's fantastic. And we did an entire development on the Oregon coast with encapsulated crawl spaces, and the buyers loved it because they're like, when it's cold outside, my floor is warm. When it's hot outside, my floor is cool. This is fantastic. And not to mention you're not getting any duct leak. You're not getting any of these things. And it's an overall cleaner assembly. So totally different digression of we'll do an entire podcast on it. But it is a great alternative for that. So yeah, I'm excited to see this innovation. I'm excited to see a cut to length, work on the job site assembly alternative to engineered trusses, because we do run into problems. We do run into problems with the manufactured trusses in your floor systems. And they are so finite. They have very little variable in their sizes. And so, we're seeing one of the things we do a lot of is ICF with engineered floor trusses. And say an ICF wall gets put out of alignment by an inch or two, we don't have the flexibility, right? It's concrete. It's now a concrete wall, and those trusses get delivered, and then they're like, well, we got to cut them down. It's like, no, you can't just cut them down, right? They're going back to the manufacturer, right? They're going, and so there's
a 3-week delay then if you can't, at least probably.
Exactly. So these, like I said, as a cut to length option in the field that already provides the routing options for your MEP, not to mention a built-up beam assembly that has the available openings. It's a huge change to the game. I'm excited to see it. So, yeah. All right. Now, let's stay on wood. Let's stay on wood for one other item. And that item that we're going to discuss is a product from Huber Engineering, and which is additions to the zip panel system. So zip panels, for those who aren't aware, zip panels are basically a wood shear wall assembly that they offer in different configurations. The most common one that we're seeing come out is with the rigid insulation already affixed to it. And so and then the wood assembly itself, it already has a treatment on the face of it for water resistance. And so you're getting basically your WRB, your water resistant barrier, already built into your shear wall panel. And then in states that require a continuous insulation, or if you're looking to have that continuous installation, you can get these panels with varying R levels of rigid insulation affixed to it. That's what they're most known for. But at the show, we saw a massive increase in products that they're now offering. One of which was, what's the material that was baked on there? We were talking with the lady about a magnesium oxide. Is that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So now that's a fire rated assembly. So if you have a situation, which we run into regularly, in a multifamily condition where we're needing that fire rated assembly and possibly a shear wall, we actually have now a magnesium oxide treated board that, if I'm not mistaken, and we didn't dive into this too much with them, that we can look at them as serving as a shear wall, because it is a wood assembly, but also having this fire barrier attachment to it. So kind of something cool. I was excited to see that. We're seeing an increase in their rain screed systems. We're seeing an increase in their flashing assemblies. So a lot of R&D coming out of Huber and their zip system.
Their booth as well was pretty incredible. They also had running water.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on their website right now trying to find this magnesium oxide.
Yeah, it's called Exact Core.
Is that what it is? Oh, it's the
Yeah.
Exact Core. So it's the other brand that they have on their landing page, like in their hero section. If you look, it's right there.
Yeah.
But their booth as well was literally running water on roof assemblies and wall assemblies where they just had a constant running water, and it was screeding off of those systems as if it wasn't even penetrating at all, like if it was a piece of Gore-Tex or something.
Yeah.
So it was pretty incredible the amount of water resistance that their product had. So
with the magnesium oxide, they're seeing an increase in sound absorption, and then you also get a fire resistance rating. So you can be putting these as your floor, wall, ceiling assemblies in multifamily construction.
And that's the white Exact Core panel, right?
Yeah. So
yep, fire resistant.
Yeah.
Flooring too.
Yeah.
So there's lateral and vertical separations.
Exactly. So something I thought was really cool to see. And it also, the other big thing of it is we run into this all the time in the use of gypsum, right? Mm-hmm. And the use of gypsum for firewall assemblies has been great in history, but guess what? We don't always build in places when it's dry. And so once that gypsum gets put in place, you are in a rush to get that thing into dry in. And it's very, very difficult to do a fire rated assembly prior to or after dry in, right? Because we have to have that continuous building envelope going through. So when we can have alternatives, which one of the items we've also been using a lot is the GP shaft liner system. Mm-hmm. As an alternative to gypsum, it's something worth exploring. And so to see something like this coming out in its multiple facets of use from a company that really, they invest a lot in their R&D. They've got their zip system that's just constantly growing its abilities. Now this Exact Core, they have the advanced tech, which is like a different type of subflooring system, more water resistant that, again, works great as you're going from initial construction to a dry in condition. So it's great stuff to see. I'm excited for it. So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now the bread and butter of it, or what I would say was going to be the biggest thing that I didn't know about that I think is a huge thing for the industry overall. ICF. So Tremco, which is a building wearable surfaces, waterproofing, they basically design entire assembly systems. So they're like I consider them like the Apple of the building materials, right? You know that if you buy an Apple product, your Apple product that you buy is going to work with all other Apple products in your house. And that's just how it works. It's the same way with Tremco with their assemblies that they do. If you buy a Tremco system here, it's going to work with your Tremco system here. So they've got everything in your waterproofing from the outside WRB to your surface applied materials to your wearable surfaces. We've specified them on exterior. We've specified Tremco products across entire building assemblies for your outside wearable surfaces. So they have systems that, hey, we put this as your waterproofing on your wall. Oh, you have a balcony. Well, now we have waterproofing for your balcony, and we have a system that ties the waterproofing of your wall into the waterproofing of your balcony, creating a full assembly. Well, a while ago, Tremco bought Nudura, which Nudura is a very well-known, very reputable ICF system. And what I'd say with the biggest things with Nudura is Nudura has the largest square footage by block system. So I think, what was it? It's like 48 square feet. What is it?
It's 8-footers.
Yeah, 8 by 4. Yeah, right. It was an 8 by 4. So you can get 48 square feet of wall out of one ICF block. It's huge. It's huge. And extremely resilient block. The other thing, their inner flanges are hinged. So literally the block stacks flat. So you're not, one of the things that's talked about as a downside to ICF is that you're paying for shipment of air, right? There was a stint in there where some block manufacturers were basically making it to where you were buying the insulation basically, and the webs, they would come to you shipped unassembled, open. And then you're assembling them in the field.
Oh, I see.
So with the Nudura block, it's actually, they have a built-in hinge system, so it actually just stacks flat, and then when you're ready to do it, you grab the block, you bring it together, it locks into place, and now you're stacking the block together. Very high production assembly system. And so Tremco and Nudura already one company. And again, they've built their waterproofing assemblies to tie in directly with the Nudura system. Well, now they have bought Light Block? Light Block. Mm-hmm. And now with the light block, and there comes other elements to it, Lightform is the name of the company. So they bought Lightform. Okay, Lightform is basically, the difference between these is Nudura is much more wholesale, larger volume systems. Larger production. That's why you get this 8x4 block assembly you can get from them. You can still use it in residential applications, but you're not going to be somebody that's going to be able to just go buy Nudura block off the shelf. You're going to work through a rep in a wholesale type condition to get those out to you. Now with them buying Lightform is more of the regular retail. You can go to Home Depot and buy Lightform block. But there's a bunch of other innovations that Lightform has brought to the market that is really cool. One of those being their light deck assembly, which is when you get it, it's a fully engineered floor system. They work with an engineer to get that engineer to inspect out for you, and that can be used in a full horizontal or angled assembly, which means that not only can you have an ICF home with wall assembly, you can also have an ICF floor assembly and an ICF roof assembly. And really cool.
Well, I want to say it was very interesting. Just before we move on to something else, but with the light deck, the feedback that I got after we were, I think in one of our podcasts we were talking about how you can do concrete roofs and concrete floors and these things, and I had a lot of people approach me after that I knew and go, "What are you talking about? You cannot do that." And I'm like, "Well, they've been doing." Commercial has been doing concrete decking and roofing for years, but in the ICF portion of it, I'm not sure how long light deck's been around. And, it's like a light steel gauge supported, it's like, that's the formwork basically that holds up the concrete. Right. Mm-hmm. And it looks kind of corrugated in some regards. They were very skeptical of it. But if you go and look at it, it's absolutely something that is super easy and fantastic. And they can lay it in like very large panels. Like if you go to their website and you watch them install the light deck, it looks like some of the light deck pieces come in almost like 4x12 big pieces of, insulated foam. But anyways, people were very skeptical of the steel and wood rib system and concrete insulated decking. And so it's really cool to see that they're promoting that out there and getting that out there more in a standardized retail location like Home Depot, where someone could actually access that and not have to go through a middleman to understand it and get it and do all that. So Very cool.
Yeah. Well, in again, kind of tying in with the Fleetwood, what happens when we get these smaller companies, again, that's already a great company that's building a great product, and they get acquired or partner with a larger company, their R&D budgets go way up, their ability and their production lines or their delivery ability to other markets continues to increase. And so it's the consumer benefits, the end consumer benefits, because a lot of people wouldn't necessarily know about the light form or the light, the light
that's
deck,
what I'm saying.
or the light bar. And so you're seeing, like you explained, is contractors going, what do you mean? What do you mean I can do a concrete? Right. So, yeah, and it's a great exposure of it. And, we also get, again, going through the Lightform systems, you've got the Lightform ICF stuff you can buy pretty much off the shelf. So you can use that for systems and products other than systems and products and processes other than what you would necessarily need a contractor for. It's something you could do yourself. And I'm a big fan of this. The light deck, right? Those things, that system comes to you engineered from them. Everything is pre-engineered, your rebar layout, your supporting of it, everything like that. Light bar is a fiberglass bar that, what was it? It was
cool.
Right? It was a 20-foot number 4 and it weighs 2.2 pounds, right?
Yeah.
So
he was holding the whole thing up with one finger.
Right. It was fully coiled in that you can hand form it into literally it was like a 4-foot diameter circle. And then the other part of it is it comes in a pack of 50, right? Yeah. And you can put it and cut it with a regular saw blade, right? So
you can move it. It's not like
one person can move it, right? Yeah. I was able to grab it, pick it up. And, you're talking 2.2 pounds of that's 50 pack. You're right. You're talking 100 pounds. Typical construction worker can lift 100 pounds and throw it on their shoulder. And so, or 2 people definitely can carry that thing around. And then the fact to be able to use regular blades on it, you're not going through metal blades. You're not having to cut bar by bar. And the other thing that needs to be understood from an engineer's side is this fiberglass bar has a much higher tensile strength than your typical steel bar. And what we're seeing, and this is just because I've worked with ICF a lot, is we're seeing I don't know if is absolution or the right word, or a lack of acceptance of the fact that you have this ability with this bar, that it has so much more tensile capacity. We can use smaller diameter bars for equivalent strengths in our systems. And especially in a wall assembly, going to a smaller bar allows for more clearance, better placement, better consolidation of our concrete. And so this is something that needs to be accepted in the industry, is that we can use this fiberglass bar for a lot of versatility, and it has significant benefits.
It's a game changer. It's rust free, which was that's a huge deal. It's lighter weight. It's non-conductive. It's stronger, and even for shipping, it's less freight to get it to your site. And it installs just like the steel, and it's easier to cut. The only thing it can't do right is round the corner.
Right.
So there's more ties.
Right. So there's some more ties in that aspect of it, or you integrate in hybrid, steel. You do a hybrid, right? The other thing that we saw, the light deck, and this is more in the commercial line of it, but their light form tilt up walls.
Oh yeah.
Super cool system. I've engineered tilt up wall assemblies before, and the number one loading that you have to design for in a tilt up wall assembly is actually not its in situ forces. It's construction forces. It's the weight of the wall going from horizontal to vertical as you tilt it up. But once it's up and in place, it will never see that kind of out of plane force or vertical forces being imposed on it. Mm-hmm. And so that's what you're typically designing it for. And so for them to have a tilt up wall assembly system in which we're basically under engineering principles, basically creating a massive I-beam out of your tilt up wall, right? With the inner web being this rigid styrofoam in which we're then running rebar ties through. Massively reduces your weight of the wall, massively reduces your volume of concrete going into the wall assembly, and even reduces, right, your tilt up weight. So it's a situation where we're using less concrete. The wall itself now is also insulated because it has this internal, fully insulated.
It's insulated,
right? So you're getting this higher all value. You're getting a lower weight of the wall, which can allow for you to use a smaller crane, which for site access or the cost of crane assemblies can be a significant game changer.
Yeah.
And just overall, really, really impressive stuff. So we do have some content coming out on that. But then, going back up to the Nudura is coming out with, what is it called? A Herky wall?
Yeah.
It was
a funny name.
It was a really, really funny name. And, but again, just me nerding out engineering wise, this Herky wall system is very much, it's an ICF system, but instead it's full massive panels that then you're filling with the concrete. And that it creates basically this grid.
Hercu wall.
Right.
Hercu. Sorry to interrupt. HERCU. It's a brand new thing, Hercu wall. They actually are marketing it on their website. Go ahead.
There you go. So yeah. So the Hercu wall creates a series of bond beams and a grid. So you basically have a bottom bond beam and an upper bond beam. And then you've got a grid of concrete that goes through it, with the majority of this being the styrofoam system. And really, again, something super cool, very innovative, allows for
wind ratings up to 235.
Up to 235. That's insane. That
three times stronger than traditional building materials.
Yeah. That is insane. I mean, where I'm at, I think I'm at 160. We just engineered a house in Tampa that was at 160 or 180 wind speed. So they're 235. That's huge. So really awesome stuff. So in all, we're continuing to see innovation. We're continuing to see investment into alternatives and the sticks and bricks, and which is great, because the fact of the matter is for the last, 30, 40, 50 years, not much has changed.
Snail's pace.
Right.
The building industry moves at a snail's pace. Yeah, we have 3D printers. Yeah, we have panelization. Yeah, we have, this and that, but it is such a slow moving industry. It's incredible. Yeah.
I mean, when the 3D printers or the concrete systems, cool, right? Something showy. If you want walls that look like horizontal corduroy, sure, have at it. But these are taking traditional construction methods and integrating the key engineering principles into something that honestly saves material, saves labor, and creates a better end product.
They're claiming the Hercu wall delivers R31 insulation for up to 40% energy savings.
Yeah. So that's your full, right. Because it's a solid, rigid insulation inside and out with this concrete grid system that gets
basically concrete studs and plate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, how they showed it to us, that's if you think about it, when I say a bond beam, or a top plate, a double top plate of a wood framed wall is basically a bond beam. It's a drag, it's a strut, right? Where there's different terms we can put to it. Same thing with the bottom plate assembly. And so this basically is creating that out of concrete. And then the vertical grids are just like studs, except we're able to space them wider apart, and they're made out of concrete. And then they have the, not to align with more traditional construction, they have built-in rigid ribbing at your typical on-center stud spacing. So again, attaching things to the walls, doing those things, that's all still fully allowed. You have these rigid fins built into the ICF that you can still affix stuff to.
And we did a segment on that, if I'm not mistaken, with them. So that'll come out too on our socials.
Yeah, overall, I was really seeing this meld of some of these different companies and seeing the innovation in it. I was really pleased to see this continued push forward. And we got to meet with our friends at Superform. Superform makes a great ICF block as well. Fox blocks.
Who were the plaid guys?
That was Superform. Yeah, Superform.
Okay, they were great.
Yeah, Superform. There's some great guys. So we're seeing innovation in wood construction and ICF, and seeing how some of these things that are coming out actually allows for better tie together of the two is awesome. And then we saw some of the other stuff. If we get into some really long spans, some really large systems, there's constantly coming out with these different steel deck assemblies, more residential geared steel beam assemblies with these pass-throughs for your utilities and your MEPs. So, those things continue to minorly improve, but those were our biggest innovations we saw structurally.
Yeah. There's some other questionable innovations at the IBS show as well that we came across. Yeah. And are we good on the structure, or do you want to keep going with that, or can we talk about some of the other stuff we ran into?
Like, you want to talk about the vacuum elevator?
Well, that was interesting in and of itself. Yes, Royal was brave enough to try a elevator that literally sucks you up.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks, literally. Yeah, that was actually really cool. I think the company was called like PEV. And what's awesome with it is it's a plug and play elevator system, meaning there's no elevator pit, there's no elevator walls, there's no elevator penthouse, anything like that. It comes to you, you assemble it, you plug it into 220, and it goes. And
were they even bolted down?
Yeah, they were bolted down, and that was yeah. But I looked them up some more. So like they have a 37-inch diameter system, and you have to leave a 39-inch wide block out. That's it. So 39-inch wide block out, and the elevator just assembles. You assemble it in sections, and you click it in. Like you plug it into 220. It's got a vent hole system on the bottom. And then you've got a vacuum system on the top, and it literally just uses vacuum pressure to you standing in the tube, sucks you right up. They had larger units, they had square units, rectangular units, they had larger round units for ADA accessibility. That was super cool. I was excited to see that because we're hopefully going to shoot some content on it. There's a new townhouse development near the water where I'm at. And the structure of these things is insane to look at. But one of the things the developer brought up to me is they were going to be doing these vacuum elevators. And I was like, because I was looking at it and I'm like, this is a 3-story townhouse system. Like, how? That's going to be a crazy elevator to get you all 3 stories up. And they're like, oh no, it's these vacuum up. He showed me how it's going to tie in with the stairs, and it literally just goes right up in the opening for the stairs all the way up all 3 floors. There's no separate closet you have to build or anything like that. It's fully exposed. They're very aesthetically appealing. Actually, I mean, it's a full, especially if you're doing a more modern look with exposed metals and stuff like that, it blends right in. All plexiglass around it.
Yeah, quite the solution for aging in place if you aren't or don't want to move, if you can't move, or if you, it would allow people that aren't as mobile to navigate their homes really for not a ton of cost, and a really simple installation that could be done in, I mean, as a retro, maybe a few days. New construction, you just block out your floor and you're good, basically. So.
Right. Yeah, it was pretty slick. I was very impressed with it. I think I know where you're thinking of going, and I don't think we need to go talk about that company.
Okay, I'll go at a more macro view then, because I think it is worth noting that the influence of AI in the show
Yeah.
was in the very front of the show. I mean, if you go
Yeah.
to the NAHB's website, IBS 2026, the first thing that comes up is all these people talking about AI and how it's going to change the game.
Right.
And so while there may be certain things that it does well, it's still not quite, it's still lacking in some regards the nuance of some things. And anyways, that could be a whole nother podcast to do, but just mentioning that AI is very much in the forefront of the building industry was one of the takeaways that I have, that a lot of people are pushing to see this become part of one of the tools that moves our industry forward a little bit more expediently than, how we've integrated technology in the past as kind of a snail's pace.
Yeah.
So it was first and foremost and in the front of everyone's discussion. But I also think it's kind of the trendy thing to talk about right now.
Right.
And so it adds a lot of flash. Ooh, look at what AI can do. Hopefully it just helps propel the industry forward a little bit. But yeah, I think at some regard, a podcast discussing the nuances of AI and how it's going to integrate into the building community would be interesting.
We'll say this, and we met with a pretty prominent builder, and he said he's currently working on a design of an 18,000 square foot home, and which is insane in and of its own right. And he has a professional interior designer working with him, and they used AI for the material takeoffs for this house. And he said it was insane how detailed that material takeoff was, in that it not only took off everything to how many tubes of caulking and each type of caulking they were going to need for this build, but all of the interior finish elements. It provided not only a quantity, but a link to the website, where it found that light fixture, that faucet, that appliance for the cheapest for every single item. So it was pretty insane. I think he said it was over 30 pages, which obviously for an 18,000 square foot home, that's
in 4 seconds. But
in a matter of seconds, yeah, in a matter of seconds.
But you also need to put in the scope for it to do that.
Right.
Where the scope has, again, AI goes to, in generality, the average of everything it can consume, and then it puts that in front of you. So you just have to be careful, even as I've learned recently, when using AI, you have to be very careful about how you use it, and don't always trust. You have to QC it. There you go. You have to QC it.
Right.
But yeah, pretty neat.
Yeah, and we have discussions with designers. Is AI going to take my job? Is AI going to do this? Everything with AI is dependent on the person's inputs. And what's interesting, like we've tried it with doing some interior elevations of some things with some of our clients, just to see what it would do. And we'll give it a minor input on, hey, please change this, please change that. And it produces a massively different elevation or interior rendering than what the first one was. And we're like, so it's very, very dependent on the end user's inputs. We've had custom designs with clients take weeks, and we've had custom designs with clients take years. The fact is don't see AI taking away any designer's jobs, because the fact is it requires that professional finesse to get a design to the end. Just like with engineering, it takes somebody who understands not just engineering, but how things are constructed and cost effectiveness and that constructability to effectively engineer a home.
Yeah. So along with the AI kind of being in the forefront of what the Flash was in the front of IBS 2026, another takeaway that I noticed was a lot of the architecture firms that were there were very heavy on the technology and bringing people into touch screens, and they had computers set up and they had people speaking in front of a big, touch screen. And that seemed like it was very heavy technology very heavily technology driven on the architecture and design side there, more
Right.
so than I had seen in previous years. I mean, they would have 20 computers lined up in a row with touch screens that people were interacting with the demonstration that was happening
Right.
in the forefront, and kind of doing real-time design there. So along the same lines, I guess I just wanted to say one of my takeaways was very heavy technology, AI focus, heavy technology usage was everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's steadily been increasing over the years.
Oh, massively, massively. But
Yeah.
I think the use of AI in material takeoffs
Yeah.
is something that's going to be extremely helpful for
Great tool.
builders. Yeah,
Yeah.
extremely helpful. That was just, yeah, it was.
There's a lot of those mundane tasks that it can get that it can get a lot more detail than a human being sitting there for 8 hours that it can do in 4 seconds if you give it the right inputs.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, on 18,000 square foot house, that's definitely more than an 8 hour timeline for
Takeoff.
material.
Yeah.
Right. That's, yeah. You're sending it to this vendor and this vendor and this vendor and this vendor, and then they're all putting their time into it to then get you something hopefully close to what you're actually going to be at. So that was pretty awesome. Do you have anything else, sir?
I guess just we made some fantastic connections with some different people, from mentor status to salespeople on the floor to other designers and builders and engineers, and all these people we connected with. I felt like it was a really good trip. I felt like there was a lot of ROI with everything we did. I think that we have connections with our particular manufacturers and vendors that we design and recommend more so than before we went there.
Right.
And then we have it was amazing, the reaction of people when we say, yeah, we have a podcast. We like to talk about, building and engineering and design and all these things that build better podcasts. How can we build better homes? And the spark in people's eye when they say, oh yeah, I would love to come talk about that. And so we have a handful of new guests that want to come on, ranging from, the NAHB to different vendors and designers. And so the key takeaway for me was well worthwhile. Make sure to network if you go there, make sure to chat with people. And for Polaris, I believe that it was a win for us in a lot of ways.
The value of these events at a national scale, it's not something that you can just easily measure. There was so much exposure to, as you stated, not just vendors and suppliers of products, but other builders, other designers, other engineers that either they're helping you get to the next level or you're helping them get to the next level. And that mentorship and networking that goes along with this is super key. And it's worth the trip. I mean, what Matt, who we had a great time with, they booked their trip literally like 3 or 4 days before it. They were just like, hey, okay, we have some block out in our schedule. We can make this happen. Right. I thought was funny, but it was, unfortunately that sometimes is the life of a builder and developer, is that you don't know if you're going to have the time to make it to these shows.
Seat of the pants.
Right. But, they did it and they made it and it was valuable to them. So that was really cool. See them and get to meet with them and talk with them about their projects that they have forthcoming. But same thing with another high-end builder I know in South Florida. I mean, he literally flew. They just decided again on a whim to like, oh, hey, we got time. We can make it up to this show. And it was beneficial. They even told me like, hey, we were having an issue with this kind of product or this kind of material, and we found somebody else that provides that it'll actually work better for our installation purposes. And we would have had no idea of that product even existed if we hadn't come to the show. So it's very important.
And the block party was really fun. I mean, I think I made probably a half a dozen connections at the block party afterwards. And there's mechanical bull riding, which was super entertaining. And you would think that after you see 1 or 2 people ride a mechanical bull that it would get old. But literally for 4 hours, it was the most entertaining thing ever. Every single person that got on there, it was a new crack up. And it was, and your buddy had gotten us like the best seats in the house. We were overlooking this mechanical bull and it was so entertaining. And then you go down to the bar and the drinks were free. So like everybody's happy and the vibe's good. And Yeah, we made several connections there. Anybody that stayed on longer than 7 seconds, I went up and made sure to get their contact info. So that was a connection there, and it was great.
I will say it was, you can imagine at a construction-based event, the gender and age of the
bull riders
is definitely skewed to older gentlemen. Some of them definitely hit the gym and held on, and
the
some
ones
other
Rolexes were flying.
Yeah, some others. It was you were concerned we were going to be calling ambulances, but it was a good time. It was a good time. So, all right. Well, hey, that ends it for today. That ended out on that funny note. And overall, I'd say again, these types of events, being involved in the NAHB, your local Home Builders Association, extremely important for your growth and development as a builder, as well as getting exposure to other materials, products, systems, whatnot. Highly recommend it. We're part of multiples as a result of our national exposure, and it all goes to a great cause. So do recommend that. There's always constant local shows as well that your local Home Builders Association may be hosting that allow you an opportunity to get involved. And if you enjoy the show, if you bring something innovative to the construction industry, do feel free to reach out to us and ask about being a guest. We'd love to have you on. Rather have somebody else talking about something than just constantly John or I. And although we do enjoy sharing our love and passion for home construction with you guys. And otherwise, if you enjoyed the show, please share it with others and check out us on all social platforms. Anything we may have, we're constantly interviewing, going to shows, going to construction sites and walking them and sharing what innovative things we're finding. You'll see lots and lots of content from the Builder Show and the different products we looked at over there. And that's it for today. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.